Morning, dear students. Today I'm going to give a small lecture on a topic called dyspnea. Dyspnea is one of the important topic in respiratory system. Dyspnea means difficulty in breathing, a sense of a labored work while breathing. Breathing should happen effortlessly. It should happen in easy manner, spontaneously. But suppose if it requires our concentration, our conscious effort, and which feels very distress. Distress means abnormally difficult. This kind of breathing is called dyspnea. Dyspnea is one of the commonest symptom in various cardio and respiratory disorders. So it is very important to understand what is dyspnea all about. Dyspnea should not be confused with another condition called hyperpnea. Hyperpnea means fastness in the breathing, hyper rate of high rate of respiratory rate, increased respiratory rate. That happens when we do the muscular exercises. Immediately after the exercise or immediately after the jogging or walking, we tend to get increased rate of respiration. That is also will look like dyspnea, but the only difference between dyspnea and hyperpnea is dyspnea will be distressful, difficult one, whereas hyperpnea, though it looks like dyspnea, though it has got high increased rate of respiration, it will not be difficult. That is the only area where it is different. And hyperpnea can be physiologically normal, not necessarily be abnormal. But dyspnea is always abnormal. It is pathological. Pathological means disease oriented. Okay. Now let us see what are the causes of dyspnea now. There are basically three types of dyspnea are there. Number one, a dyspnea due to alteration in the chemical composition of blood. That's the first category of dyspnea. When we look at the cause. The second one is increased respiratory muscle work. That is the second type of cause. The third one is emotional or psychological one. The third one. Okay, let us see in detail about these three types. That is what is going to be the complete content of this lecture today. The first type, I told you, it is alteration of the chemical composition of the blood. Chemical composition, that means the blood has got various gases in it. So every gas is a chemical component. When there is alteration in the concentration of these gases, that is also is considered to be alteration in the chemical composition. Okay, what are the gases are changing in composition that could result dyspnea? Let us see now. Number one, reduced oxygen content in the blood, which is called hypoxia. Reduced oxygen content in the concentration or content in the blood. It can happen due to various reasons. Number one, the blood that is carrying the oxygen, that may be defective. For example, defect in the hemoglobin part of the blood, we call it anemia. Anemia can be reason for the hypoxia. Hypoxia means reduced oxygen content in the blood. Hypo means reduced, low. Oxia means oxygen content. Hypoxia means reduced oxygen content in the blood. This can be due to anemia. Okay, problem in the blood itself. Number two, it can be due to problem in the blood vessel, especially the blood that is taking to the blood vessel that is carrying the blood to the lungs, the respiratory arteries. That may be defective. Number three, one of the major problem, which is the oxygen and carbon dioxide diffusion, the transportation that is taking place within the alveoli of the lung. If there is a problem in the ventilation perfusion rate, that might result in the oxygen carbon dioxide transportation difficulty and that might result hypoxia. So when oxygen uptake is reduced and carbon dioxide elimination also is affected, that will result definitely hypoxia. Okay, so this is basically alveoli type of the alveolar disorder in the lung. Okay, so it can either occur in the blood itself, or in the blood vessel, or in the lung tissue, which is alveoli. Alveoli is the terminal portion of the lung. So in all these three areas the problem can occur. Okay, that's the first category. Second category of dyspnea is due to increased respiratory muscle work. When the muscle work of the respiratory phenomena would be increased. Number one, when the lung tissues are become very rigid, that means the compliance is becoming very rigid, the respiration becomes hard. Our lung tissue must have a kind of resilience, should have a compliance, a kind of flexibility, so that the respiration will be easier for us. Because of the rigidness in the alveoli, it can occur due to various disease conditions. The lung compliance will reduce. That means it becomes rigid. In that case, the respiratory muscle has to work hard and do the ventilation, the inspiration and expiration. It tries to do the inflation and deflation of the lung tissue. When the lung gets inflation, we inspire the air. When the lung gets deflation, we expire the air. So in that way, inflation actually, when there is an inflation, the lung tissues constrict, we do expiration. When the lung deflates, it expands and we do the inspiration. Okay, so I am sorry, I oppositely I meant. Okay, so in order to do this inflation and deflation, the lung tissue must have a good compliance. Otherwise, it will be posing more work for the muscles of the respiration. The second important cause for the increased work for the respiratory muscles is problem with the thoracic cage. In the thoracic cage, if the musculoskeletal structures are hard, or there is a deformity congenitally, that is by birth, or acquired during that lifetime, if there is a deformed shape of the thoracic cage, that might impose excessive work for the muscles which are working. Or the diaphragm might be getting weakened due to various lesions, various disorders, neurologically and musculoskeletally. That also will result more work for the other respiratory muscles, the costal and intercostal muscles. So that is another reason. So either the problem can be within the tissue or outside the tissue in the thoracic cage. Both will result increased work for the respiratory muscles. There is also another reason where the muscles of the respiration are imposed for more work. A condition called increased metabolic rate. Pathologically, some conditions will impose high metabolic rate, metabolic process. For example, a condition called hyperthyrotoxicosis, a condition where it imposes more demand for oxygen, intake of oxygen, at the same time more demand to expel carbon dioxide simultaneously. So that imposes more work for the respiratory muscles. So three types of causes for the increased respiratory muscles. Number one, decreased lung compliance. Number two, problem with the diaphragm or thoracic cage. Number three, high metabolic rate disorders. All will result this problem. And now we are going for the third category of dyspnea, which is psychological or emotional. Some people, you might see, they will be having apprehensive means a fearful tendency will be always there with them, and they will also have neurologically predisposing problem, which may not be visible outside, but they will be always having some neurological problem and underlying. These kind of people you could visit, you could see they cannot stay longer time in the crowded environment. A stuffy environment they cannot tolerate, they cannot be there. For example, cinema hall, or some, say, any wedding area where there is stuffiness is more. Any the festival area, celebration areas, they cannot stay for a long time because of they cannot, the body cannot withstand with a less amount of oxygen circulation in that environment. Many people can sustain it, but some people cannot, and these people will suddenly develop shortness of breath. That means increased amount of shallow breaths, and it will result into blood alkalosis, a condition, and they will be sometimes unconscious also. Very difficult situation to manage, and that is called a dyspnea condition. A dyspnea due to psychological or emotional predisposition, risk factors, psychological or emotional risk factors are causing dyspnea here. It is a underlying emotional and psychological problems are causing this condition. Okay, so like this dyspnea can be pathological in various angle. Okay, it can be related to the blood and blood vessel and lung gas exchange, and not only that, it can also be related to the various disorders, thoracic cage abnormalities, muscle abnormalities, and can be emotional or psychological. Okay, so it is very important to diagnose what is the actual cause for dyspnea, and we have to treat it when it comes to clinical part. Okay, thank you very much, and listen to this lecture, and you can also refer to dyspnea in various textbook available with you, and it is going to be a very important topic to understand, not only for the exam but also in your clinical practice in future. Okay, thank you very much. Have a nice day.